So it looks like Envy has officially signed Keznit, the former crew superstar who was a top 5 player last time he was at Champs. But while everyone is focused on the firepower, we need to pay attention to the massive red flags hiding in plain sight. You have a team with dreams of conquering Tier 1 signing a player famous for his fragile mental and toxicity he brings to the server. Welcome to Sinistry, and today we're once again talking about Envy, and this time we're zooming in on the player they signed to replace Kane, Keznit. Is he the firepower they need, or is he the poison they can't handle? Will he fit into Envy's system? And ultimately, did they sign the most dangerous player right now? So, let's talk about the opening that led to Keznit ending up in Envy. To understand why this matters, we have to understand who Keznit is. He isn't just a player, he is the god of LATAM and a staple for crew esports. So when his departure was officially announced, it marked the end of an era. Yes, there were talks about him resigning with crew, but they ultimately fell apart. On the surface, the breakup looked peaceful. Keznit stated he was free to explore offers while still in talks with crew, and when the split was finalized, crew hailed him as their biggest legend. So you kinda have to ask, why did crew part ways with Keznit when everything seemed fine? Well, there is one metric that teams and players are always measured by, and that is winning. We all know that crew didn't win a lot this year. They missed Masters and they missed Champs, and missing the latter gotta hurt because they always seem to find a way to get into Champs year after year, and this is the first time in their history that they were not able to do so. So despite all the praises, the reality was messy. Keznit wasn't just let go, I'd say he was slowly pushed out. During the 2025 season, crew brought in a new duelist, Dante Deus, which was a foreshadowing of things to come. For a player of his caliber, being forced to flex to accommodate a rookie was a clear signal that his time as the superstar was over. But while the role changes were frustrating for the fans, rumors suggest that the final deal breaker wasn't actually about the game. It might have been about the specific player they brought in to fix the roster. Now I know I've been yapping about Keznit for a minute, and you might be wondering why I'm suddenly dragging Saadhak into the mix. But stay with me, this isn't just random drama, it's actually quite important to the whole story. So right after Keznit's contract with crew ended, there wasn't much to do. It was the off season, he had no team, so what better way to spend his time than to stream and connect with the fans just like any other player. But while he was at it, he was up to his usual trolling ways, teabagging opponents here and there. But what he didn't know was that one of those victims was Saadhak. So on the receiving end, Saadhak retaliated by mocking Keznit on his stream, saying something along the lines of, "I would love to cross paths with him in VCT next year." Oh right, I did it. Somewhat saying that he's the reason why Keznit was out of crew. So Keznit snapped back on his own stream, claiming Saadhak was the R word and suggesting he was benefiting of the crew image that Keznit built. Saadhak later issued a public apology to the community, claiming it was a heat of the moment mistake. But the damage was done. This happened right as Saadhak was rumored to be joining crew, solidifying Keznit's grudge, giving him a massive chip on his shoulder. So what's your take on this? Was Saadhak actually the one pulling the strings behind the scenes? Well, it's easy to think that way, and he may actually be a part of it, but as I have been saying, there is always more than one reason as to why things happen. And with that said, I think crew may have had a hand, maybe a very subtle one, not only in Keznit's departure, but on blowing up the entire roster. Just think about it, signing Dante was the foreshadowing, he was the starting point of something new. You could argue that they signed him to execute double duelist comps, but in hindsight, he was actually the key piece for the rebuild happening right now. And if you look at it closely, we literally saw Keznit, god of LATAM, throwing flashes on Sky and smoking sights on Omen. I mean, you don't put your franchise player on the smokes unless you're already planning to ship him. And remember when I said winning is the metric that these pros are measured by? And well, crew woke up and they're ready to move on. They gave this core of Keznit, Melzer, and Shy plenty of runway, and while they got to champs every time, which is a feat of its own, they almost always seemed to get grouped at the event as well. So the straw that broke the camel's back wasn't just the losses. It was crew's realization that this was as far as this core could go. To put it simply, this was the core's ceiling. So sure, Saadhak may have had a say in whether Keznit stayed or left, but then again, you have crew orchestrating this whole rebuild long before Saadhak even arrived. So now, all of that talk leads us to the question, why did Envy sign Keznit? Because you would think that if a team was ready to move on from the
God of LATAM,
Envy would at least be a bit hesitant to get him, yet they seem to have their hands all over him. Well, for one, the very player he is replacing vouched for him.
Oh, who do you guys think should replace you guys on Envy? That's a good question.
For myself, I think two people that could like play my role really well is like Keznit or Jama.
Should Keznit or Jogamo?
Yeah. I think Keznit could be possible. Like,
Keznit does get kind of crazy.
he's a run it down type of guy.
He's a run it down type of guy.
And yeah, I think he's looking for a team right now.
I don't know about you, but if the guy vouching for you is someone who knows Envy's system inside out, and is actually the tip of the spear of that system, I gotta say, that is pretty high praise. If the guy who is the system says Keznit fits the system, you just signed the contract, right? Keznit's run it down playstyle fits perfectly with Envy's aggressive work the map 24/7 philosophy. On top of that, he brings immense tier 1 experience that he can impart to the Envy squad. But despite all the hype and chips on shoulders, we all know the one big question mark behind this Keznit signing. Kane is turning 18 in the middle of the season, and by then, he will be eligible to play in tier 1. And you have to ask, what happens to Keznit when that moment arrives? Well, with how things look right now, I have a feeling that Kane will go the Redux route. If you don't know what that means, basically he would sit out playing in tier 1 despite becoming eligible at some point during the year. And why do I say this? Because Kane and Ion have been vocal about not wanting to join an academy team.
So since you're not competing, are you going to come to the events and just chill?
I'm not going to compete. I don't have any offers.
So you're not going to be competing. That's like confirmed?
Not for 2026.
Since two of you guys can't play next year for the franchise, wouldn't Envy just make an academy team for you guys?
I mean, academy team, like me and Ion don't want to play academy because like you can't play the champs quality.
Yeah, that's true.
You can't really do anything as academy.
Yeah, that's fair.
But that's just me. What's your take on this? Will Kane stay in tier 2 for the whole year to finish what he started? Or will Keznit be forced to step aside the moment Kane comes of age? Setting all that aside, Envy might not have considered this when signing.
God of LATAM,
They might just have signed the most dangerous free agent on the market. When I said earlier that he has a massive chip on his shoulder, what I meant is that it's not actually a chip, but it's a massive log. And he's ready to swing it at anyone, especially if it's a pink team with a player named a player named Saadhak on it. It goes without saying that this signing might be a crucial turning point for Keznit himself. Because what if all this time his aggressive playstyle was being stifled over at crew? What if Envy's chaotic system is the exact blueprint needed to unlock his full potential? And we're about to witness the rebirth of the
God of LATAM.
Another factor to consider is the best case scenario that actually turns into a problem. What if Keznit goes haywire? What if he drops massive numbers day in and day out and becomes the top player in Americas? If Kane is scheduled to sub in the moment he turns 18, how do you justify benching the MVP of the league? Anyway, I believe this Saadhak and crew drama has reignited a fire in Keznit, and now he's out here trying to prove everyone wrong. And Saadhak might have spoken way too soon when he said he wants to see Keznit in VCT, implying he wouldn't get near tier 1 again, but now it's only a matter of time. Keznit has a grudge he is eager to settle, and when the moment comes, I think he'll be ready. And he won't be alone either. Envy is a team on a mission. When the situation calls for it, I think Envy is going to rise up and step all over tier 1. But with all the emotion, the grudge, the anger, and the animosity, you have to wonder what effect this will have on the team. What if Keznit becomes obsessed, gets consumed by it all, and fails to perform? Well, that's where Coach Stunner and Poppin comes in. Don't get me wrong, Keznit needs to work on his mentality too, but to overcome this hurdle, I believe it has to be done as a team. I know it's easier said than done, but they need to control that emotion and channel it into motivation and focus. So signing the most dangerous free agent right now poses both risks and opportunities. If anything, I'd like to think that risk is exactly what Envy represents. I mean, just look at how this team was formed, signing 5 ranked players trying to make it in the VCT. Look at how the team always seemed to take the most high-risk, high-reward plays in the game and actually makes them work. I think the same applies to this Keznit signing. He won't just be a fine addition. This kind of uncertainty is exactly what they were expecting. Okay, let's hold on for a second because we have been talking about Kane in relation to Keznit a lot, but I have yet to mention Ion. So with Kane's replacement appearing to be locked in, what's going on with the sub for our smokes? Well, the recent rumblings suggest that the Curry joining Envy hype has died down and has now been replaced by the Rossi hype. But then again, they could be trialing a lot of players right now, so who knows who they will actually pick in the end. Either way, I still stand by what I said in the first video. GMD would be a nice fit for the team. So it's only a matter of time before the season starts. And if I were to predict, I am betting that the first week will be riddled with banger matches like MIBR versus NRG, Sentinels versus 100T, the classic, EG versus GE, you know I made that one up, G2 versus wherever Jonah P lands, and of course, Envy versus Crew. Envy is one of the teams I'm most excited to see in Americas right now. I'd like to see how their playstyle pans out in Tier 1. Will they dominate or will they get clowned on? Will Kane and Iron's replacements be able to fill the youngsters' shoes and replicate their firepower? Will Keznit
God of LATAM.
be able to perform and make Saadhak eat his words? Only time will tell. For now, I'll see you guys in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed, hit that sub button so you don't miss out, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.